Today we are going to the Sachsenhausen Concentration Camp Memorial and Documentation Center, which is approximately 35 kilometers north of Berlin, and due to that proximity, it has a special position within the network of concentration camps that developed quickly after the Nazis' rise to power. With the approach of the Soviet army in the winter of 1945, prisoners were forced into death marches. So the Sachsenhausen concentration camp was dissolved, and all around this region you could see groups of prisoners, mostly in groups of 500, being forced by the SS to move away from the approaching Russian army. And maybe the first group still got some food, but eventually they didn't get any support. Many prisoners died during the death marches because it was also often unclear where they would escape to. So here you have a map of these different death marches, starting in Sachsenhausen and then going through the whole region, always west, because the Soviet army came from here. And this distance from Sachsenhausen to Rabensteinfeld is approximately 150 kilometers. In northwestern direction, in April 45, under extreme weather, wet, cold, often no food, bad clothes or very bad shoes, beaten by SS guards. That's why they are called death marches. So just to orient ourselves, this is the road we came. Then you see here a triangle. This was the first concentration camp that was designed by an SS architect. He chose the form of a triangle. Here you have the entrance tower and gate, which has a panoptical view on all of the area. And in theory could use machine guns to go directly. Of course, you also had towers around it, but from here you could see most of the camp. You see that the prisoner barracks are all around it, so they are viewed. They are exposed at all times. And you see here the extermination facilities and crematorium, which are located outside the triangle. You see the prison. This was the original shape. And then here, all of this territory is for the SS as a training capacity, because Sachsenhausen became the camp to train SS guards that then would be going further to other concentration camps or the death camps in occupied Poland. In Germany, Nazi Germany, and all across Nazi-occupied Europe, millions of people have been killed on purpose, and it was a killing field. And historians estimate now that across Europe there were up to 44,000 concentration camps, death camps, satellite camps, sub-camps, ghettos, slave labor camps. And of those 44,000, we only preserve very few, like this one, like Sachsenhausen Concentration Camp. And we need to preserve them to understand from what history we are coming from. Because it's not enough to just document that the Holocaust happened and the persecution of many other groups happened.
but to really understand how was it done and why was it done. So why do we preserve these memorials? Why do we think this matters in understanding National Socialism? And I think it's the power of place. This is where we're standing. So you still can explain the system, the camp system, and the monument as it was then redesigned also after reunification, here tries to do it delocalized. So you have there 2 barracks that were built as a small camp where eventually lots of Jewish prisoners were incarcerated.
In 1992, they were attacked by neo-Nazis and they tried to burn the barracks, make them disappear.
They were partially reconstructed, but partially they left also the traces of that attack on memory. So by walking through this camp, which is also a cemetery, I think more than 12,000 human bodies and human remains have been found. So you understand as a visitor that you're at a place where thousands of people were forced to do slave labor. Many were killed. And so it gives you a space where you can think about that. Roll call area where prisoners were forced to stand often for hours to be counted in whatever weather condition. And then behind me you have the shoe testing lane that originates on an idea that a German shoe company wanted to test the materials. So they sent shoes to the camp and prisoners were forced to run up to 40 kilometers per day to test the materials. And in order to test it, you have stones, you have grass, you have sand. And of course the SS thought this was highly entertaining and forced many prisoners into too small shoes. And we know that many homosexuals were forced into this slave labor squat and died or were really severely injured.
The term homosexual has been used by the German gay and lesbian community since the early 20th century, and generally doesn't have a negative connotation in German.
So this is a memorial for one of the victim groups that were not acknowledged for decades after the war, the homosexuals. It says, beaten to death, silenced to death to the homosexual victims of National Socialism. And in the 1950s, 60s, and even 1970s, historians shied away from this topic. Documentation Center on the former site of camps did not mention homosexual men as victims of National Socialism. And LGBT groups were not allowed in Holocaust remembrances. And if they tried to express and share the remembrance, the former prisoner committees called the police. So it took a long time. The first memorial sign that was allowed was in Mauthausen, in the camp of Mauthausen in 1984. And here in Sachsenhausen, it was installed in 1992. So after unification, but coming also from East and West German cooperation of LGBT groups to finally being allowed to remember those who were killed with the pink triangle. I think if we look back, what happened in Nazi Germany, what happened in Nazi-occupied Europe, has shaped and formed European culture on so many levels and so deeply that our stereotypes, our visual images, our language, all are affected by that. And to understand which parts of our lives in which we all, and we have been growing up in these cultures, so to understand which parts of these are still Nazi heritage, it takes a lot of work. Of course, unfortunately, if we look at Europe now, 2023, we see that anti-Semitism has not left Europe. Scapegoating minorities has not left Europe. Homo and transphobia, anti-Roma and Sinti, all of that is getting stronger right now. Fascism has not left Europe. So looking back is not just a philosophical question. It's not just a question of do truth to our own history. It's a dire political need of how we can safeguard Europe for the future to come. Or if we fall back into the dark period out of which we come.